Okay guys, I'm going to go over mounting the actual vertical stabs to the ZXL. I'm going to go over mounting bordelons, which are basically mounted the same way. All they are is the skids flipped over upside down. You can make them out of coroplast, anywhere close to that shape. I put them on here about 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches. This is the joint right here where the extension wing gets put on from here out. That's the joint there from here out. And what I end up doing is about 2.5 inches, 3 inches over, I'd say about 40% in from the end of the wing, I mount the bordelon. It helps straighten out the airflow over the main control surface here. It helps break all the turbulence coming over across here. Believe it or not, even the actual control rod helps do that. So we're going to go over the mounting of these. And what I'll usually do is put a line on the actual laminated plane. The plane's already been laminated. This plane is requiring 5mm laminate, which sticks to this like crazy. You wouldn't believe how strong it is. But what I did is I measured under there this line, and I put that tape line right there, which is a piece of striping tape for a car. When I did that, I measured it over from here to here, and I made a nice straight line. So I had a place that I knew I was going to mount this actual vertical stab directly to it. And this is very, very, very strong for what it is. You want to be able to take them off and replace them, and if these ever get jerked or pulled off, you can always cut this excess glue out of the way. Either replace the lam or heat up the lam and put it back down, and stick another one back on. It's not a big deal. I don't want to go through and cut them and glue them into the actual foam, because you're going to end up causing a weak spot in the airplane. So what I do to put these on is I will take a bead of hot glue and put it right on the root after I already know where it's going to go, whether you mark it with a pen or a Sharpie, or even put alignment tape on both sides. I'll put a dab of goop on there, and I will stick this down. And I'll stick it down and I'll hold it in place. And when I hold it in place, I made a jig that puts it at about 30-degree angle. Actually, it's a little bit more than 30-degree angle. And I do is I hold it on the back of the plane, and you can see the jig goes right there, and that's what I held that up to, and that lines the actual vertical. And then I use that same jig, and I come over and I do the same thing on the other side with hot glue. And you can see when you hold it up there how real close that is. And that's what you want to do. Is I just made it out of a popsicle stick and just make a jig so each side matches once they're up. You can actually eyeball it and put a little bit of outward tilt on it, and the only reason I'm putting an outward tilt is get it away from the prop a little bit, clear this area, and give it a little bit more airflow around this whole prop area right here. Stick that on there, let it dry with the hot glue. Once both of them are on with hot glue, take a bead of goop. This is the main strength in this whole thing. Don't be shy. I take a bead of goop exactly like this, open it up, and I put a bead on it all the way around, and let it dry, and that will make it really, really strong. Then I put a little bit of leading edge tape on it, and there you go. I do the same thing with the bordelons. I put a little bit of hot glue right where they match the wing. I stick them down, and basically the hot glue is a little bit of strength, but the goop is the majority of the strength. So that's pretty much what you do. You want to put them right on the laminating film. You put them on the laminating film, and it makes them absolutely bulletproof. And if you do damage them, anything ends up happening, you can easily replace them. You can grab the glue or peel them back or peel them off, and if there's anything that's damaged there, just go ahead and relam it and stick them back on. The winglets, they go on the same way. I use a little hot glue to stick the winglets on. Once the winglets are on, then I'll run a little goop around it. But all the laminating film has been wrapped around, and then after that side's done, I wrap the laminating film around the other side, and that's what I do. And then after that, I stick the actual winglet onto the laminating film with hot glue, and then run a bead of goop around it. It makes it super, super, super strong. And it's easy to replace too. If you want to peel them off at the backside, run a razor behind it, you can pull them right off the airplane. Now let's go to the actual elevons themselves. These elevons, I cut them about 60-40. The elevon here coming out is cut to about 19.5 inches in length. From the winglet over to here, it's 19 about 19 and a half inches. And then the other piece comes over and it's just around 16 inches. So the inboard is about 16 with a nice taper out to 16. Taper them off, and they're tapered almost about 50%, starting here all the way out to a full, the full length, and then coming out, I'll go ahead and run this 19 inches across. The horns themselves, what I've done is on that HS65 MG, I've come up on the first hole on the horn, and that's where the 440 clevis goes. The 440 clevis comes back on this one, and it comes to the third hole up. And the reason is this smaller servo doesn't have as much throw. So I ended up making up the throw by dropping the horn here. Instead of lifting it up here, I dropped it here because I want the torque to stay really good on this horn since it's a small servo, and I want the resolution better. So basically I'll go on this one to adjust the throws to keep the throws the same as the big servo that's over there. I will make the throws adjusted by adjusting this horn here so I can give it down a little bit more throw. Still has a lot of torque. It's on the third hole up. And then on the other horn, same thing. On the servo, I always try to go to the lowest horn on the servo, and then on the highest horn, the highest hole on the horn on the actual elevon itself. This really gives it some nice articulation. All I've done here is clipped carbon fiber rod, made it nice and nice and long, and fits absolutely perfect. Make sure everything fits prior to tying it all together. Make sure everything is lined to the eye, and then I put a dab of goop right here on the threads on each side, and then take a piece of shrink and shrink it on, and that makes your bulletproof servo rods. They are absolutely durable, and they do not flex. So that's the basics. Everything is glued on like that, hot glued down and then goop around, and the goop is the strength, and they're very stout. You could land this plane upside down, and I bet it would actually, the winglet, the verticals would probably bend before the actual destruction of them coming off the airplane. So there you go, guys. And that's how I mount the actual skids too. Glue them on with hot glue, run a bead of goop around.